What led to the Sumerians creating one of the world's first civilizations?
Oh, hey there, bud. What are you doing? Oh, I'm farming. Right. What's that again? Well, basically, I'm gonna grow food right there. Oh, huh. Mind if I help? Oh yeah, sure. Grab that rake over there. Oh hey, bud. What you doing over there? Oh hey. What am I doing again? Farming. Oh, well, what's that? Basically, he said food's gonna come up right there. We'll have food. Seriously? For sure. Well, I was about to go poke a bunch of holes in a woolly mammoth with this stick till it died so I could eat it. That sounds a lot easier. Can I help? Yeah. I don't care. Hey, do you mind if he helps? Oh yeah, here, take this.
People first began moving into Mesopotamia about 9,000 years ago. Many settled in the south near the Persian Gulf. They would have found this area particularly excellent for farming, as floods from the Tigris and Euphrates had deposited fertile silt on the land for centuries. And so these people slowly developed agriculture and domesticated animals. Initially, these people formed small villages, likely in kinship groups. And everyone in these villages would have been engaged in agriculture somehow. As agricultural methods improved and irrigation was invented, the increase in food meant that people could focus on things other than just farming. Over time, these villages expanded and became larger, and it's likely that people began to identify less with their family group and more with their respective territories. Eventually, this growth led to the creation of some of the world's first cities and creating one of its first civilizations, Sumer. When exactly Sumer started is open to interpretation. Every source I've read stated something different, but the range is generally between 4000 and 3000 BCE. Sumerians are much like the ancient Greeks in that it wasn't a single country. Instead, they were made up of a dozen city-states. Sumerians also shared a similar culture. For example, they all spoke the same language and believed in the same gods. Sumerians believed their first city was Eridu, and thought it was where the gods first gave them the gift of farming. Modern archaeology, however, has shown that it was Uruk that was their oldest city. I'm not 100% sure on that pronunciation. I've said Uruk, I call it Uruk at school. I've looked it up on YouTube and it's Uruk. I feel kind of silly saying Uruk, but we'll just go with that. These early cities had roughly 10,000 people living in them. However, that had grown to as many as 100,000 by 2000 BCE. Sumer was mostly an agricultural society, meaning that although some people could get specialized jobs like writing, most people were engaged in farming in some way. The basic political unit, as mentioned before, was the city-state. Although we refer to the region as Sumer, each city would have had its own leaders, laws, etc. Fun fact, the Sumerians actually didn't have a name for Sumer, they just referred to it as the land. Sumer is actually a name given to them by the Akkadian people that lived to their north. Each city-state also controlled the area that surrounded it, which was mostly farmland. The most common reason to go to war was over that farmland, because the more farmland your city-state had, the more powerful it was. Because of this frequent fighting, cities built walls to protect themselves. Sumerians' lives depended on factors that they couldn't control, like flooding and droughts. Sumerians also believed in many different gods, and they believed these gods had superhuman powers that could control these natural forces. They also believed that the gods created humans to serve them. Not wanting angry gods to create calamities, priests attempted to keep gods happy. Everyone paid a temple tax, which was given to the gods, and there was also ornate rituals performed. Sumerians observed the nighttime sky to try and predict what the gods were planning. A byproduct of this astronomy was the Sumerian calendar and mathematics. Each city also believed that they had a patron god that was unique to just their city. They built large temples called ziggurats to honor them. They believed that their patron god or goddess actually lived at the top of these temples. Trade also started growing, and not just between Sumerian city-states. Even though Mesopotamia had really great farmland, they lacked a lot of necessary resources like tin and copper. Tin and copper are important ingredients in making bronze, and that was the strongest material at this time, and why this period is also referred to as the Bronze Age. Bronze, like this new statue, bought for way more money than what should be spent on a prop whose sole purpose is to go into the background of a YouTube video. Goods being traded in Mesopotamia came from as far away as North Africa and Afghanistan. It was this trade that was the main motivator for the first writing system. It became more important for merchants to be able to communicate over long distances accurately. Also, it was important to keep a record of your inventory and receipts of transactions. Initially, writing was just pictographs, but it eventually turned into the wedge-shaped writing we call cuneiform. While the pictographs originally stood for different objects, over time cuneiform writing began to stand for sounds. This writing marks the beginning of recorded history. While a lot of it is just boring inventory lists, some of it does give us exceptional insight into Sumerian culture. One tablet gives us the instructions, more or less, on how to play the royal game of Ur. Another tells us the story of a king called Gilgamesh. While likely he was a real guy, the Epic of Gilgamesh is fiction and portrays him as a superhero. The story begins with Gilgamesh upsetting his people, but through his strength he builds magnificent city walls and travels the world. This story touches on many themes. It's an epic poem, it has the time. But it touches on themes like how love is a motivating force, how gods are dangerous, and the inevitability of death. The Sumerians dominated this region until 2334 BCE, when the Akkadian conqueror Sargon of Akkad swept through the region. Sargon and his family ruled Sumer and a few other places for nearly 200 years. I'm saving more of a deep dive into Sargon and the Akkadians for the next video, so be like Sargon and conquer that bell icon so you don't miss it. It's actually during this time that there were Akkadian to Sumerian dictionaries written. Because of those, we can translate cuneiform today. After the fall of the Akkadian Empire, there was a 300-year Sumerian Renaissance from 2047 to 1750 BCE. This period of time is known for its advances in culture, and there are many firsts that sprung up. We find evidence for a lot of firsts, like a law code that actually predates Hammurabi's code, the first love song, and most importantly for my Nemo fans, the first aquarium. Sumer ultimately fell in 1750 BCE when forces from neighboring Elam sacked Ur and carried away the king. This, combined with fallen farm production due to climate change and overuse of the land, caused many Sumerians to migrate away. Even though written Sumerian still existed, few people actually knew how to write, and Sumerian was no longer a spoken language. And that was the end of the Sumerian culture. It's kind of weird to think that people who lived 4,000 years ago still impact your life. If you've ever checked your horoscope, that was a system invented by Sumerian astronomers. The way our clocks are structured, with 12 hours, comes from the Sumerians. The fact that there's 60 seconds in a minute and 60 minutes in an hour all come from Sumer. They basically invented the units of time that dictate how we spend our days, or how long a YouTube video is. Anyways, please don't forget to like and subscribe, and until next time, I'll miss you all terribly. I hope my cats aren't ruining this video. Oh my gosh, my cats are going haywire. Quit it! Oh gosh, that was wrong.